Someone in the chat just tell me, hey Joel, I just listened to the new Comic Book Cast podcast on Patreon, and now you're going live. I'm like, it's a good day for you then.
That's right. You are a lucky person.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see how this came out. Should be playing. Hey everybody, hold on a second while I make sure I know what I'm doing.
There you go.
Let's see how the sound goes.
I am very close to the monitor, I've noticed. I should move the hell back. I know when we did this last week, too, I was surprisingly close to it. I'm like, that's not good.
Right. I was like, no, that's cool. It's like Big Brother.
It's like Big Head mode, just like, hey, Joel knows all and sees all.
That's right.
I'm the friggin' Zordon head of this.
This is the second Power Rangers reference you've made in this conversation.
I know, right? Well, you can tell what I'm editing.
I was gonna say, you got the Rangers on the brain, man.
Yeah, for real. It's better than the friggin' wrestling I've been into. For so long, all my co-hosts were right into wrestling, and they finally broke me down and got me into it, and I've just watched my second pay-per-view now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, for people who follow me on Twitter, that's what all that horrible, incessant wrestling tweeting was all about.
I definitely did catch that. All right. We're good.
There we go.
All right, I'm going to stop living in fear. Can't live in feer, according to Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider.
We can't live in fear.
Come on, let's do it. Okay, Broom.
And then we're going to steal the Declaration of Independence.
You know what? The man wanted to wrench himself a franchise. He's welcome to the National Treasure franchise. I have no problem with those terrible movies. Similarly, I also don't really have much of a problem with the Lara Croft movies. I don't think they're great, but I'm also like, they could be worse.
Yeah, I mean, as far as video game movies go, I mean, a lot of low cards in that deck.
Yeah, exactly. I think another topic we'll have to do is video game movies, because that's a whole mixed bag. But hello, everybody, and welcome to Comic Pop. I'm Sal, and with me is Joel, Caped Joel, and Joel from Comic Book Cast. If you haven't already, you should definitely check out in the description box below this video to subscribe to Joel's solo show. It's Caped Joel. Kate-Joel? I don't know. It's down there. So just click.
It is a dash because I'm trying to rip off Spiderman, and I'm trying to be very clever by putting punctuation in there.
That hyphenate has dogged him forever. I remember my comic book retailer has been pushing for them to drop the hyphenate, and I'm like, no, his name isn't Leroy Spiderman, who also sells State Farm insurance. He's Spider-Man. Just like Batman originally had a hyphen. Like the old Batman titles, Batman, because it's not a Batman.
But he could be. He could be Batman.
Despite what Bane says in The Dark Knight Rises. Oh, Batman.
Batman.
Oh.
I don't know if you've been keeping up with Superman, but obviously because he's not like Superman anymore, he can't be Clark Kent anymore. He's had to ditch that identity.
Yeah.
You know what he's calling himself now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what he's calling himself now?
No, I have no idea.
He's calling himself John Clark.
All right.
Yeah, I know, right?
And DC's like, whatever. Put him back in the cape and end it.
I'm John Clark now. I'm going to get a lot of use out of this. Me and my buddy Jack Batlin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. Thank you. Jack Batlin. Thank you.
Superman took his own Jack Batlin name, is what he took.
And people will remember it, I'm sure, just as fondly as Daredevil Fall from Grace.
Hey, remember that time? Which is funny, because they've only mentioned this other name in the pages of Batman Superman. They haven't mentioned it in any of the other books, which I find hilarious.
But today's topic is actually, since we're taking up the Weekly Pull's time slot right now, but we're not taking their space. I didn't want to go that dark with it and be like, hey, we're just taking over. It's Weekly Pull, Comic Pop, Cape Joel takeover time now. But no, if you are tuning in here expecting to see the Weekly Pull, I'm sorry to say you will be disappointed because Rob, Benny, and Faust are all unavailable, and so I figured, why not just do this?
Might as well. I mean, we were probably going to do this tomorrow.
Exactly. No, I was planning on tomorrow being the show. So what the hell? You get an early show.
Yeah, and this is actually better for me too because Wednesday is obviously my review day over on Comic Book Cast when we try and review every single thing that comes out.
Oh man, yeah, that is an undertaking.
It is. That's why we have 20 people who work for us. That's
exactly. Yeah, that's why you have an army. Yeah, Wednesday actually was gonna work out, but I was like, I liked to have the leeway because Tiffany has off work, so we're just gonna like hang out.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Plus, I mean, taking the weekly polls time slot. Hey, come watch us, everybody.
Yeah.
It's at least 2 of the people you like.
We already have 2 thumbs down, so what?
so at least 2 people don't like us.
2 people are like, not weekly poll, unsubscribed. I'm like, fair enough, man. Sorry, but
that's fine.
The other
we
reason,
can wear that.
Yeah, but the other reason why I figured it would be inappropriate to talk about the weekly poll is because, or beyond the weekly poll, is because today's topic is actually 90s cartoons, and it's so categorically not comics, but in the same wheelhouse. I figured, what the hell, we'll talk about it.
Because arguably some of the best comic book animated series ever came out in that
Can't
time.
argue with that. I asked in the previous episode for the chat to give us some of their picks. I wrote down a couple. Joel and I probably have our favorites, and some of them probably will not coincide with those, but I will make an effort to at least address them in some way.
Now, I watched a lot of TV in the 90s, like a lot, so I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think they can stump me. I doubt there's a show on there that can stump me.
Oh no, there was no attempt to stump. It was all just shows that, and trust me, like when I grew up, let's talk about our experience watching 90s cartoons, and in the comments below, I'm sure you can do the same, or actually on the side right now, but in the comments if you're watching this after the fact. My origins in watching 90s cartoons is simply just, it was Saturday morning and they were on. It was actually a good segue from the 80s when I also would watch cartoons in the morning on Saturdays. My parents were very much of the mindset that I should be outside and doing more. And they really pushed that, and I had to take those awful, like, required weekend sports that so many of our ilk were subjected to early on in our careers. And I always was like, oh boy, a rain day, or oh boy, I quit the team and don't have to deal with this anymore, so I can finally watch this again. But no, the 90s was when I was like, I don't think it's ever gonna stop. I don't think this gravy train is never gonna come into the station. When they made a Big Guy and Rusty animated series,
I know, right?
I was like, oh my god, this is the time to be alive. Little would I realize that not maybe like 20 years later they would make an Avengers movie.
I know, right?
But back then, like we had our comic book related joys. I mean, obviously we had pretty much our soap opera, which was the X-Men animated series.
Oh, of course,
we could talk about that because that was like 94, I think, where they just pretty much, I don't know who the hell was in charge back then, but someone at Fox Kids is like, I just want you to take these classic X-Men arcs and just do it.
Yep, just do them all.
And like I want to start from the like Jim Lee, Chris Claremont 1992 X-Men era and just go from there. So the X-Men team, the original X-Men, of course, being Angel, Iceman, Cyclops, Marvel Girl, and Beast, and Professor X, like so many people grew up not even having any idea about Iceman or Angel or just I don't know. Their original X-Men were people like Jubilee and Gambit,
who were big at the time, and who still, I think, are coasting on that love even to this day.
Mm-hmm. Unquestionably so. Definitely Gambit. I'll also say one of the things that caught my eye recently when reviewing it was in the opening credits, which has, I think, one of the arguably top 5 greatest animated series theme songs ever.
Oh yeah.
So much so that when Days of Future Past came out, somebody made like a 60s like classical music version of it, overlaying like a Manchurian Candidate opening credit sequence. I was like, this is freaking amazing! Like, way to go, guys! But over that crawl, when Gambit came up, his comic book logo title came up, and I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, what a coincidence that the Gambit solo series has the same logo. Oh, well, no, that was definitely a concerted effort.
Even back then, Marvel was all about the multimedia and knowing who to push.
That's right. But the X-Men animated series lasted forever, it feels like. Definitely, it lasted longer than I watched it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I haven't gone back and rewatched it in a long time, but You're right. There was a lot of episodes and a lot of arcs, and like you said, it was a soap opera, and it was kind of like reading an actual comic where you had to come back every week.
It really was. Like that was the epic part was like there were some episodes, many episodes, where not a single punch was thrown, but Wolverine would certainly cradle a photograph and like touch its face and go, "I miss you," while wearing head to toe body armor and spandex.
Have you seen the meme? Because that picture is now a meme now of Wolverine holding the picture and doing the thing. Like that has now become even outside the show.
Yeah, people being like, "There was this looks like a cartoon. Was there a cartoon? Because this is hilarious." Yeah, more so than "This Is For You, Morph" is Wolverine cradling the photograph.
Which "This Is For You, Morph" is still great even to this day.
Obviously one of my favorite quotes. It also would eventually spawn a meme that lasted maybe 2 years, but within that, and then right after it died, X-Men: The Last Stand would capitalize on it, which was the Juggernaut bitch.
Oh yeah, the Juggernaut, Vinnie Jones.
Yeah, that whole thing, which was funny the first 2 or 3 minutes, and then turned into garbage.
Yeah, when the movie actually does it, it's like, yeah, that's the nail in the old coffin, is what that is.
When your parents start taking the dance floor and they're like, okay, let's do the Macarena, and you're like,
or the Dougie or whatever else. It's like,
we're it's Dougie, and it's like, oh, okay, well that's done. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Fox News.
Thanks, friggin' Brett Ratner. Thanks for killing it.
Yeah. But 90s cartoons for me represented like. It was almost like having nerd cred during a period where you weren't even aware of that concept.
I know, right? And it's like in terms of just like content and artistry and like trying to make a lot of shows for all ages audiences, we haven't really recaptured that again. And I think, like, especially in the early 90s, it was this glorious time in pop culture that a lot of people aren't going to remember, that was pre-Columbine, pre-9/11. When it was like, okay, we're not going to blame the cartoons for all the ills of the world. So they actually got to get away with some stuff that they couldn't. They could be a little subversive, and they could push some stuff in some weird and interesting directions.
Not only that, but they were also kind of climbing off the heels of the Reagan era of trying to use popular culture and media to affect change in the culture. I cite the gun initiative, and what I mean by that is that for a long time in every facet of pop culture, especially with comics but in cartoons as well, if you grew up during that period, you might remember, or if you didn't grow up in that period but you found this stuff, you might also catch random, very incongruous episodes in which a character misused, or questioned the use of a gun. There was an episode of Batman the Animated Series in which the Underdwellers, I believe is the episode.
Yeah.
Where the Fagin and his children, or whoever he was supposed to be.
That stupid Sewer King bad guy who they never used again.
Well, thank God. I'm actually really, really impressed with their ability to not use that character again. But brilliant.
There was a Sword King in Hey Arnold too, and he looked almost exactly the same. Is the funny thing.
That's hilarious. I bet they were like, "Yeah, let's use the Sewer King from this stupid thing for this episode." But
are they going to sue us for it? No, it's the friggin' Sewer King.
No one wants him. But there was, in that episode, one of the little boys is separated from the collective, and Batman takes him into the Batcave and leaves him in Alfred's care. Yeah, and the boy... Because
that's damn good surrogate parenting is what that is.
Yeah, that's hilarious, and gives you an indication as to what he did with Robin back in the day.
Yeah, hey Alfred, I've taken another young boy. Yeah. Take care of him.
Incidentally, Batman makes no attempt in that episode to train and then make him into a Robin, which I think is fascinating.
Which is like, no, you don't get to be. Only Dick gets to be.
Yeah, only Dick. And back then, we're talking about being PC. Like, while it was kind of a golden age of pre-Columbine, let's not protect everybody, they were also very much hyper-aware of kids' ability to emulate cartoons and popular media, which is why Robin, during the Batman animated series era, was not allowed to be a little kid, and why Robin had to be like high school, college age.
Which they did some cool stuff with that anyway by making him college age.
I think they made it way better because
they owned it. Yeah,
it allowed it to be like a new Teen Titans era Robin or a Tim Drake kind of Robin in the persona of Dick Grayson, and it allowed that Robin to be even more interesting and exciting for a kid because you're like, it's not like you're putting yourself in the shoes of Batman's junior partner. It's more like one day you can aspire to be Robin. And
you can hang out with Batman and be like his buddy and everything and go drinking with him, basically.
Yeah, your peers, as opposed to him being like your really
surrogate father figure.
Yeah, your dad taking you to really inappropriate locations.
Or dickish older brother, depending on how you want to look at that.
Right, it's true. But in that Underdwellers episode, the kid finds an elephant gun or something that I guess was a trophy of his father's. I'm assuming that his dad had, like, that Thomas Wayne had no similar problem with guns, and as such kept them as trophies in the trophy room. And the kid takes one of the guns off the shelf and joyfully points it at Alfred.
Yeah, I remember that.
Scares the pants off of Alfred, but then Batman appears, takes it away, and just says a bumper sticker quote, which is, "Kids and guns do not mix."
No, which, to be fair, if any hero has the right to say that, it's Batman.
It's Batman. It was a very organic, yet still obvious, like, outside force to get this agenda-driven into the episode, because... yeah, you could tell they were like, do a gun episode. Do a gun warning episode.
Well, I was going to say, that was also like a child poverty episode, too, that just happened to have like a gun side to it. But yeah, I get where you're coming from.
And I know this because I've seen, there was a channel, I don't know if it still exists anymore, but it was called Jetix.
Yeah, I remember Jetix.
I was like, oh, this is my channel, because it's just showing old cartoons that I used to like. And one of them, like, they had on regular scheduled programming, Batman the Animated Series.
Sweet.
They cut the shows down.
Oh, no.
Moved inappropriate moments. And so the Underdwellers episode came on. I'm like, oh, Tiffany, you're going to love this. He points a gun straight at Alfred. They cut the whole sequence.
Why don't you just piss on the gospel? Why don't you?
Well, and it's like, we're not celebrating the use of guns. This is an anti-gun message.
It's a learning moment.
Yeah, this is actually what you want. And they cut it because it was inappropriate. That's how PC things got.
That's unfortunate. That's sad.
But yeah.
Because that's a good moment. Although it's funny, we're talking all this praise for Underdwellers, an episode that is often ranked on the top 10 worst, and for good reasons, because the rest of the episode is kind of broken and doesn't work.
Yeah. But they use the A Squad for animation, so I will always love that episode. That for me, I really like that episode, and the reason is because it harkens for me back to like 1930s, 40s era Batman.
Yeah.
When when Fagin falls into the crocodile pit and he just says, "A gruesome fate for a gruesome man." That's almost word for word when Batman defeats Dr. Death, knocks him in the face, he falls into his chemicals and burns alive. And Batman says, "Death for Dr. Death." And you're
back in the age of super dickery.
Yeah. You're like, whoa, Batman, what happened to your anti-death thing? And he's like, nah.
Well, it's funny. In that same episode, too, Batman friggin' breaks the jaw of a crocodile by opening it way too big. And I'm like, whoa, PETA's gonna have some words for Batman.
Yeah, Batman totally pulled a King Kong. Fucking killed that croc dead. It was awesome.
I mean, in fair, the croc came at him first. It was self-defense, but I mean, geez, but Batman is no friend to animals.
No, I think that they later animated him like swimming away in defeat, but he killed that crocodile.
he murdered the living heck out of that crocodile.
And I'll never forget it too, because when he reaches critical mass, its eyes flare open.
Yes, it does. Oh yeah.
And then goes limp. Children's cartoons, everybody.
Another thing that got me about that episode, another reason why I think it ends up on really low lists, is that, when Batman finally corners the Fagin character, when, he corners Sewer King, he's like, no, never more in my life have I wanted to take the life of a bad guy than I do right now. And this was very early on in Batman's run, and I'm like, really? More than the Joker?
Yeah.
More than any of these other... This guy, this lame villain who would never show up again, is the guy who's making you question your no-kill rule. Really?
Well, he exploited He exploited children and made them live in the sewers and steal from people. Like, this is a predator. This is a child predator.
He did have a child army, and he did dress like Peter Pan. So,
a little creepy.
A little creepy.
And you know what? Maybe it's just... This is one of those examples of Batman's fear policy actually being effective, as opposed to just no one taking him seriously. Like, this guy was like, holy crap, I am never going to do that again. Also,
I'm never going to build a child army ever again.
Well, I'm never gonna like try to steal or. I mean, the other thing is they probably threw the book at him, judicially speaking. I mean.
Yeah, I mean they locked him up in Blackgate, not Arkham, where you can
exactly.
get out.
He's not going anywhere. But as far as PC chicanery goes, or gun safety and other like PC safety kind of things, they did a gun episode in the Gargoyles cartoon show.
Yeah, the chat was talking about that. That's an excellent episode. I owned that episode on VHS and watched that one to death. That was a really solid one.
Nice. I feel bad talking about Gargoyles because Tiffany's not here. She was the huge Gargoyles fan. I was a fan, but not enough. You know what I mean? Like, I dug Gargoyles and I watched it all the time. But once they got in that boat, and went through the shores of Avalon.
Yeah.
For me, it's like when the Phoenix Saga came on X-Men. I'm like, we're on part 8 of 16. I'm out.
And yet, still, I will take that over the Goliath Chronicles, which is the season that Wiseman had nothing to do with. And once you kick the original creator off a show,
yeah, you can't. No, it's like the gas leak year from Community. You just ignore it.
It's like the final season of Boondocks, where it's like, oh, really? Aaron Magruder had nothing to do with this? You mean the guy who created the comic strip this is based on, and who had a hand in every of the original episode is gone? Okay.
Yeah. Well, then I guess I'm not watching.
Yeah. I watched it and it was terrible. Like every episode was more terrible than the next. I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? But yeah, back to Gargoyles.
But Gargoyles, amazing show. And once again, it's funny, you think about where Disney is now, where Disney just said, screw it, I got $1 trillion, I'll spend some of it to buy boy franchises.
Yeah, screw making our own boy franchises, we will just buy other people's.
Because Gargoyles, because Disney actually did a damn good job, especially in the 90s, of creating franchises out of...
They really did.
Almost out of thin air, but even more miraculously from franchises that started in the 50s and 60s.
Like friggin' Tailspin and like Darkwing Duck, yeah.
Yeah, like turning the Jungle Book into Adventures from Monkey Island. Actually, because there's a show that literally is Tailspin, that is like live action and stars the dad from Seventh Heaven. And it was called like Adventures of Monkey Island or Tales from Monkey Island, something like that. And it was it never made it, but it was a show that was literally Tailspin. Blue was that guy, and it was just,
That's hilarious.
Bizarre.
But yeah, I mean, Darkwing Duck and I would also say The Tick are brilliant, and brilliant for reasons no one ever gives them credit for, and that is that they were parodying the superhero cartoon boom that was happening at that moment.
Yep. I remember when, I'm trying to think of other, like, superhero parodies that came out in recent years, and me saying things like, I've seen this before a lot sooner. Like, I saw this in The Tick well before they started doing that.
It's true. The Tick predicted a lot of stuff and did, like, a lot of stuff that other shows would start doing.
Yeah. The Tick is a... Well, let's get into The Tick after we talk about just Disney's renaissance, if you will, of TV.
Because, which, it was never really that good again, was it, for Disney Animation? I mean, obviously, they still got the movies and everything and all that other stuff.
Yeah, during that period, that was Disney. I think Disney's high point has never been higher, originally speaking, when it came to, like, the early to mid-90s, because that's where
the afternoon it was.
The Disney Afternoon, yeah. Because you have not only the Disney Afternoon, but also Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast.
Animated series.
You also have, like, those movies where it's, like, Aladdin and Lion King, and you're like, oh, it can never be better than this. And, in fact, you were right.
I mean, they're getting pretty good again, but even still.
But only because they have Pixar. For me, I don't know. I've not enjoyed an original Disney movie since, I guess, Atlantis.
Oh wow, you're going way back there. Not even Frozen. Now, don't get me wrong, Atlantis is super underrated, and it's on Netflix now. Everybody,
oh, definitely watch it if you haven't. By the way.
Yeah, really, not even Frozen, not even Princess and the Frog.
I never saw Frozen.
Really, you didn't? Okay. Well, and I guess now it's going to be way too built up for you if you do.
Oh, there's no way it can be what everyone says it is. But I will say I liked Tangled. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice movie. It was fun, original, cute, and made a considerable step forward from the wake of Pixar's very, very brief departure.
Yeah.
But, like, as far as Pixar and Disney go, like, Finding Nemo, Wall-E, Incredibles, the Toy Story franchise. Like I don't credit Disney with those. Like that's those guys. And
That came from their wheelhouse. Now, again, I don't know if you've ever seen Princess and the Frog. I thought, okay, see, thematically, that one is super underrated because you're dealing with your first princess of color and her dad, played by like not Todd Howard, but
is that Keith David?
No, not Keith David. You would think Oprah's her mom, but the guy from the first roadie.
Oh, Tom Howard.
Yeah, the first Terrence Howard, and he says it's like, look, you know, she's wishing on a star. She's doing the classic Disney princess thing.
Yeah.
And her dad comes in and is like, look, honey, you wishing on stars is great and everything, but you know what? You actually got to go out there and make it happen.
Nice.
Wink, wink. And I'm like, nice. So this is a whole subversion of the wish on a star thing from Disney. And it's even better because the villain of that movie is like a voodoo witch doctor, voiced by Keith David, who does an amazing job, sings his own song. He was also Goliath in Gargoyles, so it's kind of connected. And his whole deal is that he's a evil voodoo practitioner who has basically sold his soul and leased his soul to so many different demons, like taking the shortcuts and like, you know, kind of not working for what he's got. And I'm like, oh, this is really clever. And I think that was lost on way too many people.
Yeah, that's probably true. The other thing is you gotta have a dynamite soundtrack for one of those movies. And I don't know.
They had like 2 good songs on that one.
The
rest were forgettable.
Yeah.
The villain song was good and the hero song was good. The rest were like, meh.
That's how I feel with movies like Little Mermaid. Like Ursula's song fucking trumps the whole damn soundtrack.
Poor unfortunate souls. Yeah. It's a showstopper.
It is a showstopper. That is a true diva ballad. But yeah, so Disney Afternoon rocked. Darkwing Duck was a show that blew my mind, and not just because of how it like played with the superhero genre, but also because I just finished watching DuckTales and DuckTales Ends, and then Launchpad
shows up in that show.
That blew my comic book centric mind because I'm like, oh shit, it's all connected.
It's a continuity.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And I thought, and honestly, like, because I also, you know, when you grow up with cartoons, when you grow up with comic books, and especially with TV, you know that, like, things can't always, like, continuity is great and all, but everything's got to be kind of self-contained. Everything kind of has to be back where it was before so that anyone can jump in. For me, I was like, cool, Launchpad is in this episode, is in the pilot for Darkwing Duck. Then he's on the show as a sidekick, and I'm like, oh, anything can happen now. All bets are off.
And then later, wouldn't they bring in, like, Gizmo Duck?
Gizmo Duck came in, you're like, okay. No, once Launchpad comes into Darkwing Duck, you go, oh, well, then all bets are off. Like, everyone can show up. Scrooge McDuck can have a cameo in this thing. I don't know if he ever did, but I do know that, but Gizmo Duck was definitely, like a frustrating antagonist for Darkwing.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Friggin' Jim Cummings, man, just so, like, a legendary voice actor, who was also in Princess and the Frog, ironically.
Jim Cummings has done everything forever.
He's the shocker. He's the freaking shocker.
He's the shocker. Trust me, like, if you grew up with these voices, like Rob Paulson, Jim Cummings, Tracy McNeil,
Trace McNeil.
Trace McNeil. These voices you'll hear them play different characters, and they do a dynamite job. But you know it's them. You can pick them out from everything. Rob Paulson was another voice, but let's talk about Jim Cummings. Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, and he's Tigger now too, because the original Tigger actor passed away, so now he's both.
Yeah, so he's both. So he plays both. And I think Ed Asner was one of anyway. But Ed
Asner was brilliant from the DC universe to everything else. So again, Ed Asner was in Boondocks before his death.
Yeah. Ed Asner, Cosgrove on Freakazoid.
That's right. He's so good.
Which is another superhero cartoon show from the 90s that was amazing. And I think that I cite Freakazoid, Animaniacs, and Tiny Toons as kind of Warner Brothers' attempt to replicate the Disney Afternoon formula.
A little bit. Like, and also kind of grow their thing and pass the torch from, like, the original Looney Tunes to, like, Looney Tunes The Next Generation, even though that never picked up because those characters aren't nearly as bankable, it would seem.
Apparently not. You know, it's funny that, like, they went, when Warner Brothers would go millennial, would go 2000, if you will, that they opted instead to make, like, an anime space adventure series.
Lunatics Unleashed. Yeah, I remember
Lunatics, rather than just aging the Tiny Toons and doing something with that.
Yeah.
I guess because of how cemented they were in the 90s, like but you could have, if you wanted to do like a narrative with the Looney Tunes, you could have easily been like, okay, it's Tiny Toons, but now they're in a high school or college, and make it really angsty.
Oh, gee. Make it, everyone's wearing flannel. Everyone's playing guitars.
Yeah, everyone's from Seattle, and they're all just like, we were lied to, man. They told me I was going to be the next Bugs Bunny, but you know what? I'm just Buster. Like,
see, why did no one do that? That's amazing.
What a missed opportunity. Which they can still do. Especially
because Tiny Toons had some amazing cartoon in there. Like, I'm pretty sure in an episode they say there's a reason Bugs Bunny doesn't get any older, and that's because the cheers and the applause keep him young forever.
Yes. Man, like, Warner Brothers Animation, okay, I applaud both studios and their ability back then, especially, to create these not iconic, because they don't last forever, but these subversive, intelligent, original, high concept creations.
Oh yeah.
Apparently, let's talk about Freakazoid for a second. Freakazoid was a pitch from Bruce Timm to be like a superhero show.
Yeah, he wanted it to be serious, and Spielberg came in. It's like, yeah, I'm going to use your designs, but yeah.
But I'm thinking more like a Jerry Lewis in the animated form, and Bruce Timm's like, goodbye, I want to make Justice League.
Imagine what that show could have been like if he stayed. Like, maybe Freakazoid could have been the definitive hero of the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, like, Freakazoid could have been the next Plastic Man.
Yeah. A high bar indeed.
Yeah. That said, I'm so glad that Spielberg did take it away, because Freakazoid is fucking hilarious.
Wonderfully chaotic and just insane stream of conscious, which is hilarious because Freakazoid gets his power from the early internet, and he is basically today's internet encapsulated.
Yeah, it's amazing how, because if you were growing up during that time, or if you came after these cartoons, you know the internet to be a very different beast from what it was in like 1994
and what it was promised in 1990.
And in 1994, the internet was basically the information superhighway. You could download information about dinosaurs, order flowers for your aunt, and also get tickets for the game, all on America Online. These were the places where where the collective knowledge and experience of the human race were available at the click of a button and the high-pitched wail of your computers talking to each other.
Can you believe there's a whole generation of kids who don't know what that modem sound means?
Yeah. When Dexter Douglas gets...
Nerd Computer Ace
gets downloaded into the internet, he does not become a hyper-intelligent...
Godchild.
Yeah, which is... if they made a movie...
about that today.
Back then, if in 1992 they were like, we're making a movie about a guy who gets sucked into the internet, it would be like Lawnmower Man. Where he's like, I am God here, I know everything and can subvert God himself. Like, that's what they would have done. But no, for some reason, they were like Nostradamus and made him into a meme machine.
A maniac who just spouts pop culture references and is just random all the time.
Yeah, he is an ADD-fed meme factory. Where
he is Reddit, 4chan, and like Eyes Can Has Cheeseburger all rolled up into one dude.
And how friggin' high concept is that?
Incredibly.
But I love Freakazoid. Most of that is from the actor whose name escapes me at the moment, but like...
It was Paulson who was Freakazoid, wasn't he?
It was not Paulson.
It was not Paulson.
Paulson was Yakko, the guy who played Freakazoid. Maybe the chat could help us out, but like... amazing actor.
Ruger. It was Ruger. It was Tom Ruger, I'm pretty sure.
Thank you. He is so great, and if you have the opportunity to get the DVD, listen to the commentary for the first episode or pilot, because that first episode, I don't think that there's... Every episode of Freakazoid after that is great, but none are so great as the first episode, because it never quite gets as ridiculous as it does in the first episode, as random and unpredictable as the first episode was. And the commentary for it is charming, because they just talk about... because it's gone. The show's over. It's dead. They're recording it well after the show aired. And they're just remembering it and enjoying it. And they're talking about all the random Jerry Lewis and old school comedian jokes that Freakazoid is making. And they talk about how... Warner Brothers and Spielberg are like, we want to make this new, fun, hilarious character that the kids are all gonna want to be. And he goes, and like, one of the quotes is like, and what child doesn't love an old Jerry Lewis gag?
Of course,
like,
right?
Because and he's like, but that's what I'm doing. And then there's the moment where they're at the prom, and Freakazoid is going to defeat Caveman or whatever.
Cave Guy.
Cave Guy. And
Cave Guy was surprisingly sophisticated,
right? Hilariously sophisticated.
Unsubscribe to the New Yorker.
He defeats Cave Guy with sheer randomness and starts yodeling in Yiddish.
Yeah. Down.
Everybody down. Everybody on this side of the room. And and there's this, and when he's doing that, there's just this pause in the commentary. And he goes, "Here's where the wheels come off."
Yeah, right there at that moment.
Like, we might have had a show, but now it's just a joke. Candlejack's another amazing show.
Oh, no, you can't say it, though.
Although I've just said it, so he should be coming and taking me away. I didn't mean to say Candlejack.
Slender Man before Slender Man.
Yeah, again, amazing. And brilliant character design, clearly inspired by the Phantasm. Thanks, Bruce Timm, for drawing your Phantasm character.
For recycling a lot. A lot of those designs were great. Like, again, there was Cave Guy, there was Candlejack, there was Ricardo Montalban, who played, like, the evil Freakazoid. Yeah. I love that. And doing just his con voice.
Right. And the Lobe, played by David Warner, who would also be Ra's al Ghul. Every time Ra's al Ghul is cast in a cartoon, I'm like, why didn't you get David Warner? Like, what a waste.
Why didn't you? He's perfect.
Yeah, detective. Like, unbelievable. But I want to say that Freakazoid just used character models from shows that were canceled.
Yeah, it seemed a lot like.
Just put him in this shit. I don't care.
Now, have you heard the great legend of this, that in the opening credits for Freakazoid, you can clearly see a female Freakazoid, Freakazette, for a season that was never made.
Yep. And they were just like, yeah, don't forget Freakazette, and it's like, who?
I've heard a lot of great rumors about that character, that it was supposed to be his on-again, off-again girlfriend. Another script that said supposedly was supposed to be his mom.
What?
Yeah, that his mom would have become Freakazette.
That's hilarious. Love it. I would have taken any of it.
Also, to the name Dexter Douglas, yes, that is a reference to Peter Parker and all the great Marvel alliteration.
You got to use the alliteration to make the character. Jessica Jones, a new character, they got to do the alliteration. What's the other one? The Sentry. Robert Reynolds?
Yeah, I think so.
But one of the other cartoons that I should mention... Whoops. One of the other cartoons that I need to mention, just because we have a lot of ground to cover, and I don't think we're going to get to everything. Obviously.
It's a big decade.
Here's a show I never watched. Just straight up never watched the show. Okay, I watched maybe an episode or two, but like could not get into it. Maybe because Ninja Turtles had already come, and I loved it and enjoyed it. But it was Street Sharks.
Oh yeah, man, dude, I watched Street Sharks. Now, I own Street Sharks.
Now here's the thing for me: Street Sharks looked like they were all here. Spoilers, everybody, but Thundercats, He-Man, Street Sharks, Ninja Turtles,
Mummies Alive.
They're all toy commercials.
People in the chat were asking about Mummies Alive. Mummies Alive
was a show that I watched.
Me too. And again, too, there's a show that was way too late, that if it had come out earlier, it could have been the next Ninja Turtles.
Could happen, but just you missed the boat, and you aired it on UPN, which will kill your show. But at least you'll get a season. But Street Sharks and all these shows are toy commercials.
They bite, they fight, it's all right.
And hand puppet toys and action figures, and this is a thing where, like, legitimately, like, it started with Transformers and G.I. Joe, where toy companies said... I think it was Masters of the Universe was the first one. He-Man and Masters of the Universe. It was a toy company that owned all this molded plastic and said, how the hell are we going to sell this crap to children? And so they said, let's make cartoons that feature
are basically
all the
just 22-minute commercials.
Yep, and that's where your beloved childhood memories came from corporate greed, beautiful money made out of molded plastic.
And here's the funny thing about Street Sharks. I can remember watching the commercials for for Street Sharks and saying this is the coolest shit ever,
right,
than actually watching the show and being like, the commercials do a better job of selling this, honestly.
Yeah, I actually wanted a Street Shark more than I wanted to watch Street Sharks.
It's true. It's very true, because you watch the show and you're like, eh. And you know how, like, every cartoon crew back in the day, like, for Ninja Turtles, it was pizza. That was their thing. And for Sonic, it was chili dogs. For the Street Sharks, it was burgers. I'm like, that's kind of generic.
Yeah, let's have a hot dog. Like, okay. Well, because they're cheap and easy to animate.
Also, the thing, too, about the Street Sharks, again, they were all brothers from this super rich scientist who was working with, like, splicing fish DNA, because, of course, he was.
Right, because...
And they all have a different extreme thing. Like, the one guy's really into football, so he wears a shirt that's, like, up to here. And the other one's really into rollerblading, and he has, like, a parachute.
Yep.
And there's nothing homoerotic about it at all.
Oh, no. But yeah, overglorified toy commercial shows,
Love
Street
'em.
Sharks, Biker Mice from Mars, yet another.
Oh, another one with Paulson. Later on, they would actually reboot Biker Mice from Mars, and they would actually kind of try and take it seriously. Where it's like, look how much money we put into the animation.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, you can't.
And you see them fight the wars on Mars against the evil cats that are trying to invade them. And, like, Paulson is doing his best John Wayne or best Clint Eastwood impression.
Oh my god. Now, let's talk just about Paulson for a minute, because the man has no equal, and has his own podcast, actually, where he talks to
Talking Tunes, which is epic.
It's an amazing show. Actually, we interviewed him on our channel one time. If you ever check out our 2014 Kineticon video, he's in there. We chat for a few minutes. It's amazing. He sings a bar from the Nations of the World from the Animaniacs.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama.
And I was like, but dude played so many voices from Biker Mice from Mars, Animaniacs. He played Mr. Opportunity in, like, Toyota commercials.
Oh, that's right. I'm Mr. Opportunity, and I'm knocking.
And I'm like, Bob, what are you doing?
I gotta eat.
He's just like, I don't care what. Look, it's not the 90s anymore. It's 2000s. Nobody wants to hear Raphael say, or be cool but rude.
What's great about Paulson is that he's a turtle twice in his life, because he was on the original cast and he's on the new show now too.
Yep, he played Raphael, and by the way, played Raphael not just in the show, but in all the cartoon commercials in which they needed one of the turtles to say something. He's the one who would do it. For all the turtle action figure commercials.
Oh god, someone in the chat just brought up something amazing there. Yes, Mighty Ducks, the cartoon that was also a Ninja Turtles kind of ripoff with alien ducks who played hockey that had nothing to do with the movie.
I think this is just another example of Disney being like, of Disney falling off of the map, where they went like, we can do no wrong. We can take an established Disney franchise, spin it into a new show for this generation, and make money.
I had Mighty Ducks action figures, but then again, maybe because I'm Canadian, it was easier to buy.
I think so, yeah. There were very few, like, real hardcore hockey reference from the American cartoon span.
Maybe that's why it didn't last in America. They're like, hockey.
Yeah, hockey. We did that already. But, yeah.
Get these ducks playing baseball and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, or at least make them eat pizza.
I don't think the Ducks had a food. I don't think they had a signature food. Maybe they would have lasted if they had a signature food.
You need to tick off all the check marks, man.
What's great about that show too is that one of the characters was literally just Duck Gambit too.
Right. I remember the lineup. I remember the character designs. My friend's little brother liked Mighty Ducks, so I remember. And
instead of a matrix of leadership like for the Transformers, you get a golden hockey mask, right. And that is your right to lead the Duck people if you have the golden hockey mask.
Yeah. We should also talk. We talked a little bit about the Tick, but I think the fact that Paulson took over for Arthur after season 1 or 2 of the Tick was also kind of a mind-bending thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because number one, like, I loved the original voice for Arthur, but when Paulson took over, I was not disappointed.
That's good.
You know what I mean? Like, that was the little wooden boy in the belly of the belly of love. I think that was the name of the episode. And that was the first episode where where Paulson took over as Arthur in the Tick, and the Tick kind of fell off into something else. But I love that show. Really wasn't disappointed by the voice, but it became a different animal, I think, for the show.
Yeah.
I just think we needed to address the Tick and the fact that Paulson played Arthur, because that's
just thought we should. Oh, someone in the chat said apparently the Mighty Ducks loved popcorn. Okay, that's
popcorn. There you go.
That's kind of clever, because if you're feeding ducks, what are you gonna? They're not gonna go hunt down stale bread.
Right? Yeah. Oh, now that would have been funny, where they because the turtles loved pizza, but they always liked weird stuff on their pizza. So the ducks are like, oh, sweet, a loaf of bread that's been left out for a couple of weeks.
Dude, that show had a Belushi too. Like their manager was like the living Belushi.
That
was Disney using their money and their clout at that time. We're gonna get us the living Belushi is what we're gonna
lucky
do.
Everybody.
I know, right?
And
another thing they mentioned too, the villain on that show was Tim Curry. How many amazing villain roles did Tim Curry have in the 90s? He was basically all of them.
Well, he was an amazing Hook from Peter Pan and the Pirates.
Oh my God, dude, Peter Pan and the Pirates, man.
Amazing
Oh my God,
show.
You kids are missing out. You need to hunt that show down. That was like one of the most surprising. It would be like if Studio Ghibli did like a Peter Pan.
It was. Let me tell you something. If you like Peter Pan or Hook, you will be blown away by what they did with Peter Pan and the Pirates. Fox's Peter Pan and the Pirates. They were not afraid to hitch their wagon to that horse.
And they had to say it too, and that's why Peter Pan doesn't wear green and doesn't do anything else that the Disney Peter Pan does.
It blew my mind. Brown Peter Pan. There's an episode of Peter Pan and the Pirates that blew my friggin' mind. And it was where Peter Pan...
I think it's the same one.
It's the one where Peter Pan captures Captain Hook, goes, "It's over. I'm going to kill you now." And Peter Pan, like, gets Long Tom and, like, puts the cannon up against Captain Hook. And he's like, "You're dead." And just lights the cannon. And Captain Hook is like, "Yeah, do it, motherfucker." Like, he basically says, "I'm happy to die because I lived my life. I was a boy, I was a youth, I was a man. And you'll never experience that."
They did so much cool stuff like that. Like, I remember... Well, again, because the weird thing about Peter Pan and the Pirates is they focus on the pirates a lot and the fact that they're like, Neverland sucks. We want out of here.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not, like, a prepubescent child, this place is horror show. Like, it is filled with, like, Native Americans that want to kill... Or natives that want to murder you, and sea creatures that want to murder you, and fairies that want to murder you. Like,
it's purgatory.
Everything is predicated on killing you. Yeah, it's purgatory.
For them, they were stuck in purgatory. And I remember there was another episode, too, where it's like they found a cave full of things that were lost, and like Captain Hook's childhood was in there.
Yeah.
Or like another one when like Peter Pan stopped believing, and because he stopped believing, he started getting old. And like Captain Hook saved the day in that episode because he's like, "Well, I believe in Neverland." And Tinkerbell's like, "What? Seriously, you believe in Neverland?" He's like, "Well, yeah, I'm stuck here, aren't I?
I live here. I can't escape it. I'm reminded of it every day. I do believe." Yeah, that's the same episode because Hook's derisive, like, goading of Peter Pan makes Peter Pan lose his freaking mind. And because he can't grow, he starts, like, affecting the mannerisms of adults and starts, like, painting a beard on. Like, just, like, crazy psychodrama of Peter Pan and the Pirates. Like, what the crap
And this is what they gave to kids back in the 90s.
Yeah, choke on that. Enjoy your last unicorn movie. Like, these are the movies and shows that defined a generation of people who are totally not well adjusted.
Because this is what we had to deal with.
Yeah, this is our grow up. Tiffany just let me know that Tony Jay is her favorite voice actor for villains in the 90s.
Megabyte in Reboot, friggin' Claude Frollo in Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah.
The villain in Skeleton Warriors, which was yet another Ninja Turtles Let's Sell Toys. But oh my God, that one had an amazing theme song. Skeleton Warriors.
Now here's the thing. Let's talk about Tony Jay for just a second. Amazing voice actor, cut short. Wish he could be in everything.
So tragic. So tragic.
But I think a recipe for success, regardless of the quality of your show, if it was during this decade, was your power ballad theme song.
So many amazing, even shows that weren't that good, like King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, had an amazing theme song.
Amazing theme song. Terrible show. I will also cite, this is a good show. I actually did enjoy it, but again, in my top 5 greatest animated themes of all time, Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego?
Oh yeah, where they're like basically did a whole choir. Where in the world?
Yeah, it's, if you haven't heard it, listen to it. It will be stuck in your head forever, and then you'll go back and watch all the shows because it's also an informative. It was one of those Trojan horse educational programs,
which there was a lot of in the 90s.
Oh yeah. Well, again, I think it's a byproduct of the Reagan era of use pop culture to convert the masses into your belief system.
Like, how many shows from the 90s had like a sum up section, like, you know, Sonic Says or Sailor Moon Says?
Yeah, at the end where they're like, you know, we had a lot of fun, but don't forget that running across roads without looking both ways is a recipe for disaster. Like
the sort of stuff that South Park would go on to mercilessly skewer with their I learned something today.
That's the thing about South Park, because we can talk about that, because South Park was a cartoon show from the 90s.
It's true, and still going strong.
And still going, yeah.
19 seasons just like this month.
Yep. South Park is a show that not only like made The Simpsons look like your grandpa's cartoon, make it look like a Hanna-Barbera show.
It's true.
This was a show where like they were able to effectively parody and mock the popular culture or any prominent
as it happened,
as it was happening. So
because they have a 2-week turnaround for animation, which is unheard of.
They can make anything they want and turn it out and become the most culturally relevant show. They could hit on a meme or a culturally significant event before Saturday Night Live could do a sketch about it.
They were the only show talking about like 9/11 and the war in Iraq after it happened. The only ones.
That episode blew my mind. Like,
I know.
I mean,
and it's called Osama bin Laden Has Farty Pants.
Yep. That was a show where that was an episode where I went like, I'm a lifer. Good job. Like I'm watching the show forever.
And yet, after all the work they put in, the episode that won them an award was the World of Warcraft episode, which is a great episode. Don't get me wrong.
But you know, not very subversive.
It's like, really, after everything they talked about, this is the one you give them an award for.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, bizarre.
Which they then turn around and made fun of it by having a whole episode about Randy taking a giant crap and then under it putting, you know, Academy or Oscar award-winning
show. Yeah, they were nominated for an Academy Award for, they didn't get it, but Blame Canada was better than whatever song won that year.
And I'm Canadian, and I agree.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Hey, yeah. I think that movie did a good job of balancing the tides of war. Nobody quite won that war. So
no, it did, and also the fact that they can be a movie about the controversy that their movie will indefinitely cause. I'm just like, that was here's a great part about the South Park movie. I snuck in to see that movie because I wasn't old enough to watch it, and when I have a similar story.
Yeah,
actually.
When the boys sneak in to see Terrence and Phillip Ashes of Fire, and they're not allowed to be in, I was like, we're doing it! This is a movie for me! We're literally having this experience right fucking now.
Yeah.
It was yeah. That was a show that will forever be cemented in my
I remember I went with my parents to the drive-in, and they were playing Blast from the Past, a terrible movie that no one remembers.
Yep, I do remember that. Brendan Fraser and Alicia Silverstone with Christopher Walken that no one will ever watch or buy. Don't watch.
Yeah, and I was young and didn't give a crap. And on the screen directly behind us, they were playing the South Park movie.
Like, just
yeah.
Yeah, Mom and Dad, you enjoy. Well, go ahead. I'm gonna change the dial really quick.
Change the dial really quick. See what's happening.
Yeah.
With South Park, because by God, that's a weird movie to watch with the sound off.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Okay, we talked about like basic TV kind of things. I think we'll just really quick delve into the UPN shows that are also comic book related. I'm thinking, of course, about the Marvel Action Hour.
Oh God,
which included the Fantastic Four Iron Man combo.
That's right.
Fantastic Four was, for me, one of the best and worst Marvel animated shows of all time, because first season is utter trash. They're cutting corners. The animation is horrible. That's the origin of the terrible and infamous "Flame On" song by Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
It's like it's like every movie property or every movie studio trying to make a Fantastic Four movie. Didn't get it, couldn't quite nail it. Then I guess they like ended the show and then brought it back for its second season with a completely different theme song, a completely different animation studio, and a completely different tone, and completely turned that show around for me. I think they went full X-Men with us with that one.
Right.
From the first season, which had that horrible theme, which you should watch and it'll be stuck in your head forever, they went to an instrumental theme that was kind of like hopeful and bombastic, very Chris Columbus. And afterwards, you're like, the animation was much more heavily shaded and really played with the whole Inhumans angle and really made Doctor Doom into an actual monarch and made them go into space. They fought T'Challa, who was also voiced by Keith David, because
that dude
why
gets
would
around.
We do that? They had guest cameos from everybody. Thor was on that show, voiced by John Rhys Davies.
Oh, wow.
Amazing episode.
See, I'm drawing a blank on a lot of those. But yeah, I sort of remember what you're saying.
It was a fantastic show. They had an episode, Galactus Attacks, and every superhero that they were allowed to have shows up, and they can't beat Galactus, so then Ghost Rider rides in and uses the penance stare on Galactus.
Sounds like some fan fiction.
It was complete. And by the way, Ghost Rider rides it. Ghost Rider's used the best in that show than he's ever been used in his history. And the reason for that is because
which Ghost Rider was it?
Well, it was Danny Ketch Ghost Rider.
Right,
because he was the cool one. And but the way in which they use him is all hope is lost. There's nothing they can do. Then a guitar lick plays, and Ghost Rider appears, and everyone gets out of his way and goes, "Who's that? He scares me." And then he says to Galactus, like, "Feel the death of the souls of a billion, and then burns Galactus's soul with his penance stare, and then Galactus passes the fuck out, and then Ghost Rider goes, "My work is done. I go where innocent blood is spilt," and then roars off into the sunset. Everyone goes, "What the shit just happened?"
I need to leave now. My planet needs me.
Yeah, exactly. He goes like, "Well, my coolness factor has just reached its apex. I must go to recharge."
He's like George from Seinfeld. He needed to leave on a high note.
That's exactly right. He was totally like, "Well, that's it for me. You've been great. Thanks for having me. Pieces."
Bye-bye, everybody.
It's a friggin' amazing cameo. But Fantastic Four manages to pull itself out of what would have been one of the most embarrassing attempts at a Fantastic Four franchise, which is saying a lot because there are 3 really, really embarrassing movie
There's a lot of low cards in that deck.
It's hard to do, but like that cartoon managed to pull it out. But the Iron Man show did a very similar thing where it also had a horrible theme and horrible animation. Just what the crap. Also didn't believe in the Iron Man character enough. This is, by the way, before the movies and everything. Iron Man was a C-list character.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much so that
people forget that how C-list he was.
Exactly. Like, guys, you don't even know. Before the movie, they made Iron Man into the Avengers traitor, and then he died. And they went back in time and got his younger self and brought him to the present, and he became Iron Man. And
that's why you got that lame Armored Adventures show, because, like, hey, there's precedent for it.
Yeah. And he was Iron Man until Heroes Were Born. Like, they didn't know what to do with him, and so they just made him a teenager.
Now he's the biggest goddamn thing.
Now he's the biggest goddamn thing ever. So much so that they're making Spider-Man into Iron Man. But that Iron Man cartoon, they were so like worried about how crappy or how poor
that he had a whole team. He had like a whole Who Gives a Fuck crew.
Oh, it was the West Coast Avengers. They just put the West Coast Avengers on his team. So it was Spider-Woman, Julia Carpenter, War Machine, Hawkeye, Vision, and Ghost. And like, what the fuck?
We actually over on Comic Book Cast, we riffed an episode of the Iron Man cartoon.
Nice.
It was called Hawkeye Betrayed, or like is Hawkeye a traitor?
Yeah.
And literally it's one of the funniest riffs we've ever done. I say look it up. It's literally just a whole episode of Iron Man and the Who Gives a Fuck crew just jumping the gun on Hawkeye because he didn't show up for a fight. He's like, he betrayed us, he freaking betrayed us. And like Iron Man's just shaking him, and I'm like, oh my god, this is insanity.
Yeah.
And you find out at the end where it's like, oh, he went to go visit like his dad in the nursing home, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Man, Tony, I bet you feel like a dick right about now.
Yeah. Then they like changed it so that once again, like they did like 2 seasons of that, trashed it, did a new epic theme where Tony has his long, luxurious locks and his ridiculous beard, and he's making suits. He can and his one suit you push a button and it turns into another suit.
Yeah.
Like it's Mark 1, push a button, it's subterranean like lava suit. Just completely different. It was like pre-Extremis Extremis.
Which, you joke, apparently they're going back to that now for the new Bendis run. Apparently he can just mix it and match all his different armor types now.
Because why not? You want to see that, right? I mean, like, who wants to see the dude, like, go take off the damn thing? But the show...
There's an app for it.
Yeah. It's Iron Man 2.0, or whatever the fuck they want to use.
Whatever we're up to now.
Yeah. We've been talking for a while, and about an hour. So I guess we'll just really quick, is there, like, what era / network would you like to touch upon from the 90s?
We'll tell you what, if you have a list, and I know a bunch of people are shouting out a bunch of great ones in the comment section, do we want to just lightning round it?
Yeah, let's lightning round it. Okay, Beast Wars.
Really loved it. That was the great Canadian animation. Those were the same guys who did Reboot and Battle of the Planets.
Great show, fantastic.
The only time I've ever cared about Transformers.
That's the show that made me give a damn about Transformers.
Where
they really like jumped on the mythology and then Prime is a Christ figure.
Absolutely, man. I can remember when they did the big changeover, because it's like, okay, we need to sell a bunch of new toys now, so a big crisis catastrophe happens and they all get changed.
Yep. That was disappointing.
Spider-Man Unlimited, real horrible disappointment after Spider-Man.
Show, so terrible. The High Evolutionary is the bad guy. Terrible theme.
Counter-Earth.
Yep, and I remember them saying that, like, if we had gotten another season, we would have left Counter-Earth. Yeah, right.
My ass, you
would have. We all wanted you to leave Counter-Earth. Couldn't wait for you to leave. Never did. And inexplicably tethered to the 90s Spider-Man cartoon show. Like, he actually was technically in that continuity.
That was the first time as a youth I ever learned about discontinuity from that, where I'm like, hey, these things don't all match up.
Yeah. Bizarre.
Batman Beyond, super underrated,
amazing
honestly.
Show. I hated it.
Really?
When I was a kid, I was like, this is stupid. Because Batman had gotten canceled, and Batman Beyond was like the favorite child because it was a young, hip Batman.
And Justice League hadn't happened yet. Yeah, you really had to... I couldn't imagine watching it when it aired, because I didn't watch it when it aired.
Yeah, well, Batman was on when it aired, and then they canceled Batman, and Batman Beyond was the last one left, and I'm like, this has to... Like, no. That said, clearly the guys were like, fuck it, we just want to tell Batman stories, and so it's heavily cemented in continuity.
In a Blade Runner-esque future.
Fantastic. And by the way, no roadmap, no Bible, no plan. Like, when they created that universe, it was in the pilot. They're like, I guess it's like this? And
we guess.
Made up things as they went along, tricked a lot of people, made them think it was really, like, all intricately created. Amazing premise, loved it, and by the way... That Bruce Wayne is obviously Dark Knight Returns Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Which is why whenever, like, when they made the Dark Knight Returns movie, I'm like, why not Kevin Conroy? The dude already knows how to do the voice, and he's older, so he can definitely do the voice.
It's true.
Completely wasted on RoboCop.
So much great continuity. The episode where they deal with Venom, the episode where they deal with Ra's al Ghul all over again is classic. The movie Return of the Joker is one of the best DC animated movies, and
again,
a truly fitting conclusion.
A show that came from like a need to make like a teenage Batman turned into one of the best DC animated movies ever. Watch the PG-13 one. I almost prefer...
It's the best one.
I love both versions. I kind of like the old version a little more now. Like, I don't know. It just feels a little like it feels a little too aggressive, but
nothing compared to what DC Animation's doing right now.
Yeah, now I'm like, oh my god, like
it's like, oh my god, you guys had restraint back then. Holy crap.
Yeah.
What's great about that movie is there's a bit with the big giant killer laser beam that's very much like the movie Akira, which Batman Beyond is obviously inspired by, and the dude who animated that laser scene animated the original Akira laser scene.
Really?
Yeah, that was like his first job when he started in the animation industry. Then years later, he got to do it again, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna top myself this time."
Yeah, he does. That thing's amazing. It also, of course, is one of my favorite throwaway Joker lines where it's like, "Oh, good, the laser's coming here. Now I got to start all over again. Thanks for wrecking everything, kid. Leave."
So good. Mark Hamill just kills it in that role. He will be the Joker until he dies, and even after, he's the best one.
Yep, I'm looking forward to learning more about what they're doing with Killing Joke, since he's playing Joker.
I mean, they gotta knock that one out of the park. Like anything short of a less than a classic.
Yeah. And
it will be a total waste.
It's gotta and make Conroy come back. I don't care what it costs.
I know. They're just like, well, we're not sure if we'll bring Kevin Conroy back. You're gonna get him back.
You better fucking do it.
If you don't, then what was the point of I will accept Bruce Greenwood, but I will be very salty about it.
Bruce Greenwood's okay. I'll accept that as well. But I'd rather
he grew on me from He had Red Hood and Young Justice, so he had a movie and he had a show.
Yeah, he did a nice job with both. I was happy with that voice.
The Mask animated. I forgot about that. The 90s was the last time we had really interesting animated series based off movies. The Men in Black animated series.
Shows better than either sequel.
Oh, a million times, yes. They had an amazing cast of villains for that show. Agent A, the first member of Men in Black, who became an insane villain who started stealing alien parts for himself.
Amazing
Genius.
Stuff.
Why did none of the movies do that?
I know. It's so bizarre.
Friggin' Jackie Chan Adventures, also way better than it should have been.
I did not watch that show.
that ran for 6 seasons on one of the dumbest scavenger hunt style storytelling things.
Really?
And they changed up what the scavenger hunt was every season, and it was really interesting. It was clear they wanted to make an Indiana Jones style show, so basically just Jackie Chan is now Indiana Jones because why not?
Yeah, because
and there's a version of S.H.I.E.L.D. that's in there, and eventually Jackie Chan builds his own team of similar adventurer heroes.
Okay.
There's a Catwoman and a luchador and a big sumo guy, and I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah, all right, let's do that. Why not?
Jackie Chan built a freaking team, yeah.
I guess let's round things out with what are some of the cartoon shows that you watched as a kid from back in the day that either got one season, half a season, or you think nobody watched the show?
Legend of Calamity Jane was a Warner Brothers thing. It was a French show, and it was truly beautiful, stunning European animation. Really dark, too, very much in that same vein as Batman the Animated Series and Gargoyles. I think they pulled it off American TV after one episode, and Canada got the sloppy seconds, but it actually got to finish.
Nice.
Jim Cummings was in that, too.
Oh, cool. I'll have to catch that, because that's one I did not catch.
Here's the thing. You can get most of it on YouTube, because that's one of the few series that is kept alive solely by tape traders and pirates, because no one's actually thought to put it out here in North America.
Amazing.
The French get it. Also, Cyber 6. Do you remember Cyber 6? Was this a thing?
I remember Cyber 6, no.
Also, incredibly amazing European animated show that they would air here on Canadian TV sometimes. It's Argentinian, based on an Italian comic book, a heavy metal story in an Italian comic book. It's about... so buckle in for this one, because you're going to need to buckle in for this one. It's the story of a woman who escaped the Holocaust. Her villains are Nazi scientists. She lives in a city that they never say is Brazil, but it's totally Brazil. Mm-hmm. She fights Frankenstein monsters at night, and by day she cross-dresses as a man and lives as an English teacher. These are all real things that happen, and I'm like, oh, Europe. oh, Europe, you're so good. There's a scene, and if you've watched my Cape Joel channel, it's actually the thing in the beginning, where it's the opening credits, yet another show with an amazing theme song, where she jumps off a building and her cape starts flowing.
Yeah.
In the thing, it's like the sexiest cape shot ever. it's amazing. It's just like Batman wishes he could do that.
Right. I'll also just say, just really quick aside, because we never got a chance to talk about the cable cartoon shows that also were a little bit more for mature adults that were also comic book related.
Spawn the animated series.
Spawn the animated series. Your cape reminded me of the Spawn animated series.
Really good first season. It kind of goes off the rails after that.
It's funny. I remember my parents paid for HBO, so I watched it and I was like, can't fucking wait. Loved it when it was coming out. Watched it again. They reuse so much animation.
Yeah, they do. It's very music video editing.
It's very, very music video editing, very like cut corners, meandering, doesn't really go anywhere interesting.
Much like the Spawn comics sometimes.
Like Spawn comics. Keith David does amazing work with Spawn.
Killer.
Everyone does a really great job as with the voice acting, and the designs are really nice, but just like couldn't really make it as far as a faithful adaptation, or at least even a decent adaptation.
Terrible cliffhanger too. I remember after like moping around for a whole season.
Oh yeah.
And they're like fighting over Genghis Khan's mask, and you find out Genghis Khan was actually like a redeemer for heaven and everything. And they get done that, and Spawn finally comes into the room, and he's like, "I've decided. I'm ready to get my life back." And then the show ends, and then it never came back.
Yeah. What a fucking disaster.
What a friggin' cliffhanger, man.
The show that, however, I think succeeded in every conceivable level, you'll never see another cartoon show like this again, especially in terms of comic book adaptations, is the Maxx.
A lot of people in the comment section talking about the Maxx.
If you have not watched the Maxx, go on YouTube and watch them all.
Yeah, because you can.
Or MTV. I think MTV.com has all the episodes and they're higher res. That show was... Like, Sam Keith, I think, is quoted in saying something like, "I had more creative control on that show than I had any right to." And he basically was just there. They would come to him and say, like, "Do you want us to just do this?" And he goes, "You don't have to do the whole book. Like, you don't have to do the pages." They're like, "No, that's what we want to do." And they brought that comic book to life. That is people talk about like Scott Pilgrim being a comic book come to life. No, the Maxx is a comic book come to life.
Because they just didn't care. Because they're like, we'll just do it page for page.
Page for page, but moving. Like, you see the same Sam Keith art, but in motion. Perfect voice cast, amazing depth and reach. The animation, of course, is great. The art's, of course, fantastic, because if you like the art for the cartoon or for the comic, then that's the art from the fucking cartoon.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was also like forgivably short and does a better job of ending the Maxx than the Maxx ever did, because it ends before the show or before the comic ends, but ends on a way stronger note than that comic book did.
That's good.
It's so great, so satisfying. I think there's only like, it's a short run. You can watch the whole damn thing in like one or 2 days. And if you ever were like, man, the Maxx was cool, but it really disappointed me, just watch the show. And it's like you did.
I can remember being a kid with insomnia, staying up late at night watching that and watching. Yeah, and watching The Head. Remember The Head?
The Head was the other show. Well, Aeon Flux, The Head, and the Maxx. The Head was an amazing show that I didn't want to watch because I was like, this is getting in the way of the Maxx. Really incredible show. Really, really bizarre, trying new things and really telling an interesting story. Very ahead of its time.
I think if that show came out now in the age of like
Netflix, huge.
It could be the next BoJack Horseman.
Oh my god, yeah! In the age of in a world where BoJack Horseman, Rick and Morty, even Gravity Falls, to that respect, like it's a damn good show, and it would have found an audience, especially on Adult Swim. MTV was like playing with the idea of one day being Adult Swim. Couldn't quite hack it.
Couldn't get there yet. They were Adult Swim Mark 1.
Similarly, by the way, like, cause yeah, like look at the MTV cartoons like Beavis and Butthead, Daria, and the Oddities. Daria is another show close to
Daria, which is a spin-off of Beavis and Butthead, and a lot of people don't remember that.
It's true. I think Daria is a better show than Beavis and Butthead. That said, I didn't appreciate it when I was a kid. When I got to be an adolescent and watched it again, I was like, this is pretty fucking
That's
fun.
when you need to watch Daria. If it was up to me, I would hand every teenager in high school a box set of Daria and say, watch this.
Well, and hey, if you were born after like 2000 or around like the late 90s, and you want to know what it was like to be a teenager in my graduating class,
it's a time capsule.
Then watch Daria, especially bootlegged, because all the music was ripped for the aftermarket because they didn't have the rights. Because MTV's like, we have the rights to play anything we want, but aftermarket we don't have the rights to play the music in, like, we can't sell this music. It's not our music to sell.
I hate it when that happens.
Happened with Quantum Leap too. Quantum Leap has amazing soundtrack, but can't sell the music, so some of that music has to get ripped from the DVD, which is totally bullshit.
Oh God! Someone in the chat just brought up Duckman and the Oblongs. Yeah.
Another show.
More shows that were Adult Swim before Adult Swim.
Yeah, Duckman
Jason Alexander, man, in that show.
Yeah,
and again,
right?
Another one where Tim Curry played the villain.
Yes, amazing.
King Chicken.
Yeah. We could go on and on. I mean, like, yeah. So, anyway, we've been going on for an hour and a half. This is longer than the weekly poll usually goes on for, so let's
One last weird one. One last weird one, and I bet I can out-weird people. Okay, so we all know the Wayans brothers, right?
Oh, yeah.
They had a show called Wayne Head, and it was about a kid. Basically, it's like they were toying around with doing like the Cosby, or doing like Fat Albert.
Yes,
and everything.
I remember that show.
But here's the thing: the kid had a club foot, is the thing, and I never realized it until I was older that that's what his deal was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, if they made that show today, it would be trumpeted as being like, so progressive and so transcendent.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, here was a show about a kid in a low-income neighborhood with like a physical disability.
Yeah.
And we all just like, yeah.
And we're just, and no one had anything to say. But like, yeah, there was nobody like freaking out about being PC or about it being like just pandering or anything like that. Nor was anybody like, well, no one will believe that this child with this disability can possibly succeed. Like, no, it was just a show. Like,
it's hard to believe thinking back on that now, where I'm just like, man, that was a show that existed.
Yeah, we had that. Yeah, it was. The funny thing is, today you think about like Saturday morning cartoons or cartoons,
which is dead now for kids nowadays because you can just watch it anytime on your pad or on your DVR.
It's definitely the end of an era. I'm kind of glad that Saturday morning cartoons aren't limping along anymore. Because
it was sad there for a bit.
Well, and the fact is, like, the idea of waiting for something and, having to, sit around and like get your schedules in line or missing an episode.
It totally was for me because I had to switch back and forth between Warner Brothers and Fox because I wanted to watch them all.
Exactly, same here. Especially in the 80s, CBS, NBC, Fox, Warner Brothers, like they all, or in my case, WPIX, everybody had something different, and I just had to keep channel surfing to catch everything. It doesn't translate to today's climate. I don't think it's worse. I can imagine in today's world having to wait or having to schedule around a show. No, F that. Like, not when today's technology allows me to do it. Like, we're definitely in a new and different age. I don't think it's better or worse, but it is objectively more convenient. And so I'm kind of happy it's over, that it happened. I'm glad it occurred. But I'm glad that we're in a new place now.
Weep not that it is gone, but rejoice that it happened.
Exactly. And if I think that nostalgia also helps in a big bad way when it comes to some of those
absolutely
shows. And that experience in general, because it's not just if you just couch it in I watched these shows, then you grew up on a lot of like plastic commercials and sugary cereal commercials. And
it's true.
The fact is, like, having those experiences and being a youth or a young adolescent and growing up during that period and all the other experience, all the ancillary things that you tie those memories to, that's what makes it really special and unique.
Jeez, the chat's right. We didn't talk about anything from Cartoon Network.
No, we didn't even touch Cartoon Network. It's a fucking network dedicated to cartoons. We could talk about that till the sun comes up.
Dude, Powerpuff Girls and Ed and Andy and Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo, man. Let me tell you, like, I think that because we're all over the place, and B, it tackled an epic topic, we may need to revisit this in the future.
Tell you what, Cartoon Network is its own episode, and I know we were saying, too, that we're going to have to come back, because this is a big nostalgia episode. We're going to have to talk about the cartoons today, because I got to say, there's a really interesting kind of resurgence happening in animation and animation for adults. There's some cool stuff happening now.
Well, and I think that has everything to do with the fact that people our age are now in those jobs.
Yeah.
So you're getting those kinds of things.
Let's make it like we remember.
Yeah, exactly. I want the thing I like. And so, yeah, I mean, like, the fact that Gravity Falls and Rick and Morty exist, those
Steven
shows,
Universe,
like, this
too.
is for me. Like, these people are, like, have the same sense of humor as me. And,
they get it.
And when they talk, when you read or watch interviews with Alex Hirsch or Justin Roiland and they talk about the shows they watched, you're like, oh, yeah, right. We're the same friggin' age. Like, no kidding. Like, I would make the same show. Only probably not, because they're a lot better at creating an original idea than I am. But yeah, I like that idea. We got to do a Cartoon Network episode, and we got to do a Nicktoons episode.
Especially Nicktoons, especially now, because they're going to launch a whole channel, which is nothing but their 90s shows.
I think that when Nickelodeon launches the channel, we'll have to do an episode where we just talk about classic Nickelodeon.
Rugrats, Hey Arnold, Rocco's Postmodern Life,
Yep.
friggin'
Oh
all
my
that
God.
stuff.
And even the live stuff. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Clarissa Explains It All. Legend
All
of the Hidden
that.
Temple, all that, Guts, everything that. And by the way, objectively, I watched some of those. They're still great. And when I say they, I mean like the game shows. Guts is still great. Legend of the Hidden Temple is a show that needs to come back. Nick Arcade didn't really quite stand the test of time.
Now, see, over in Canada, we didn't get a lot of those. Like, we kind of got our Nickelodeon cut up because we weren't allowed to have Nickelodeon for the longest time, so we, like, just a couple shows would seep through.
Oh.
We have it now, but it's the pared-down Canadian Nickelodeon.
Oh, you did, yeah. Well, you know what's funny? I have a very similar experience because when I grew up, I lived in the forest, and there was no way for cable to come to us.
Oh,
so
no.
when I would go down the shore and stay down there, we got cable. So I got Nickelodeon. I grew up on Nickelodeon 1 month, 1 summer at a time.
Nice.
So,
well, see, here's the thing. I'll actually reveal this. So, in Canada, for the longest time, we couldn't legally actually get Cartoon Network is the thing. But if you knew a guy who knew a guy, and you slipped him a couple bucks, he'd mess with your satellite so you could get the American stuff like Cartoon Network. So for much of my youth, I was enjoying pirated Cartoon Network.
That's amazing.
And then the Canadian companies just cut down on that. It was a major crackdown. They're like, no, you can't have any of that. And then I went to like Florida one year for a family vacation, and I rediscovered Cartoon Network on American TV, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. Nothing against Teletoon. Teletoon is like the Canadian answer to Cartoon Network, and it's all right, and they got a lot of the same shows, but it wasn't the same.
I'll say we very much have a culture exchange. I never got into Degrassi.
Neither did I.
Oh, interesting.
I'm Canadian. I'm just like, nothing. I'm imagining you discovered Degrassi because Kevin Smith.
Actually, no. Degrassi came before Kevin Smith, but I was like, I don't give a fuck about these Canadian kids and
these Canadian teens with their Canadian problems, eh?
Oh, it was the same problems. It was just like, yeah, I remember this when it was called Saved by the Bell, or 21 Jump Street, or Welcome Freshman. You know, like yeah, I had my own avenue. Although, as I understand it, Degrassi did manage to like really hit on some hard-hitting issues and be kind of subversive. I was like, that's cool. I just don't, you know. And now, if I watched old episodes of Degrassi Junior High, I'd be a creep.
It's true.
Be an old man. Yeah. Oh, what's Caitlin gonna do? Like,
these teens with their problems.
Their problems, yeah. As it stood, like reading Ultimate Spider-Man as an adult, I was like, these kids are having some serious shit. I'm worried about them, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm an adult. I can't worry about this shit.
Yeah, well, that's how I feel reading Miss Marvel, where it's like, man, Kamala's got so many problems with high school right now, but I am riveted by all of it.
I'm riveted, and I also have the solutions to all your problems.
Yeah, you grow up and get over it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's
get
the
context.
Yeah, geez, if you could just write yourself into the story and shake the characters and be like, it's all gonna be okay. Yeah. Life doesn't end at high school.
I mean, even then, like, I would love to see a Gotham Academy in the Marvel Universe. Like a show where they're like, oh my god, I can't believe, and some kid being like, Galactus could eat the planet at any moment. At
any moment.
Like, there's literally a beast that lives in the cosmos that eats worlds.
Planets. Like, he has to.
He can't stop, and the universe has a consciousness and needs him to exist. The universe wants us to die.
Did you know somewhere else in the multiverse there's a place that it's kind of like us, but it started in 2000 and everything's slightly trendier, but people stay dead over there?
Yeah, that's a book. That's a pitch. Holy crap. I'm going to call a couple of contacts of mine. Anyway, we got to wrap this up. So thank you very much for everybody in the chat right now. Thank you for watching after the fact. We'll hopefully be able to do this again in the future. And thank you to our Weekly Pull fans who decided to stick around and watch us talk about cartoons for a while.
Yeah, I had a killer time with this. I know when we suggested this last week, I'm like, oh, we got to do
cartoons!
This.
Yeah, we'll have to...
I can talk about this shit forever.
And we'll have to talk about a similar, like, you know, I mean, obviously we're geek-centric, so we talked about movies and science fiction last week, cartoons this week. Who knows what'll be next week, but it will definitely have like a topic or a theme
I'd say we would talk about video games, but I think we might have to tag Tiffany in there for that one because you don't have a modern console, you've been saying.
I do not. I do not have the modern video game mindset. My video game knowledge and experience stops around 1999. So
Nice.
I mean, I played CODBO, you know what I mean, like, or GTA 5, but like, who doesn't? But yeah, we'll have to do that in the future because I think Tiffany would love to tap in.
I imagine she's further along in The Witcher than I am because I've been trying to build up Cape Jewel, which you should all totally check out. I have not been able to play any Witcher, and it's so sad. I'm still in the second area. That's how big that game is.
She bought Witcher 3, but never finished Witcher 2, so she's got or never played it. So she's like, I got to play Witcher 2 before I play Witcher 3. So she's actually not playing Witcher 3 and is playing through Witcher 2 so she could get to it.
Witcher 3 is a job. Playing Witcher 3 is like having another job, honestly. That's how immersive it is. It's like, you are a Witcher. Go brew a potion to put it on your sword so you can go kill the monster.
I will say she is also starting up Dragon Age Origins, so...
Oh, see, okay, I played the first 2 of those in preparation for Inquisition, the newest one.
Oh, cool.
I never bought Inquisition because like I was so burned out after playing the first 2. I'm like, yeah, I'm good on fantasy RPGs for a little bit, and now the DLC is out for Inquisition.
Oh crap. So yeah, probably video games, something like that. We'll see what happens. And just want to let you guys know in the chat 2 things about what's happening over on ComicPOP. The first of which is we launched a Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/ComicPOP, you can just check it out and see what kind of rewards we got. See if it's something for you. And the other thing is that Ben and I are going to be in Harrison, New York at Aw Yeah Comics' inaugural opening of their second store, thanks to SUNY Purchase. Our friends over at the Comic Book Club there have asked us to be there, so Ben and I are going to be attending after 4 p.m. Not sure quite what time it is going to be, but I'll let you know in the comment section down below this video. And also I'm going to tweet it out on October 2nd. That's a Friday. 2 Fridays from now. We'll see you guys hopefully there in Harrison, New York. We're going to be there at Aw Yeah Comics, kind of doing a little 2-man show. So hopefully you guys see you there. Joel, what do you got going on over on Comic Book Cast and also over on Caped Joel?
Well, obviously on Comic Book Cast, tomorrow is Wednesday, which means we will be flushed with the biggest, newest reviews for your viewing pleasure. October is coming up, you know, The Flash is coming back, and I get the feeling that you might be getting a new Comic Clash very soon, maybe a Speedster-themed one of those. Also, because it's October, we're going to be bringing back Comic Book Cast Riffs, and because Goosebumps the movie is coming out, we're going to be doing a whole R.L. Stine-themed month.
Cool.
I've picked out some choice episodes for us to do, because that's my job. I get to pick the episodes.
Oh, cool.
I picked some choice ones. I think everyone's really going to like that. Over on Cape Joel, I put out a new video every week this week. I have my review of the new episode of Gotham. I have my new review of the newest episode of Rick and Morty over there.
Cool. I will, just my 6 degrees separation from R.L. Stine, my my childhood best friend's father hand-painted almost all the covers for the Fear Street novels.
Dude.
And if you are a collector, there are maybe 1 or 2 novels that I'm on the cover of.
Amazing.
I never committed to memory. I never really cared enough back then. I always took it for granted. Oh, of course, everyone's parent is, of course, involved in some kind of culturally significant, awesome thing, right? No. So yeah, if you catch that, if you find me, or if you think it's me, and it's before 1996 or whatever, it's probably me.
Great. Now you're gonna have a bunch of fans digging through and trying to find those covers.
You caught my plan. I want them to find it because I don't know what issue it was.
Go, my fan army.
Yeah, please find me because I don't know if it's me or not. Yeah. Also,
okay, where's Waldo? It's where's Sal.
Yeah, where's Sal? What Fear Street story did I die in? And of course, as always, don't forget to stop by theweeklypull.net for reviews and all of our videos, and also the Weekly Pull's boards, message boards. We're there, we're chatting it up, we're always checking in, seeing what you guys are up to, and we'll see you guys next time with an all new episode of whatever we're doing here. I'm Sal, and this is Joel. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.